Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 24th of May, now it's almost 12 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update today, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with Belgorod region. As you know, a few days ago, Zelensky's regime did conduct a sabotage operation on in Belgorod region of Russian Federation. Quite large number, quite large unit of Ukrainian saboteurs enter this region, and in response, Russian side declare counter-terrorist operation. If I'm not mistaken, this was first time when Russia used counter-terrorist operation classification of this kind in neighboring with Ukraine regions, and as a result of counter-terrorist operations, according to Russian officials, more than 70 Ukrainian saboteurs were killed, few of them were captured, and the rest of the saboteurs managed to escape to Ukraine. I did share on my Telegram channel photo and video footage of destroyed military vehicles that these saboteurs were using. You can check it on my Telegram page if you did not see it yet. So, as you can see, mainly they did use US military equipment, but not just, of course. And during this operation, unfortunately, there were serious casualties among civilians. One civilian was killed by Ukrainian saboteurs, and 13 civilians were wounded. And right now, medics are fighting for the life. This is when it comes to Belgorod region. Counter-terrorist operation has ended, which means that Russian side in full control of areas that were targeted by Ukrainian forces. But still, I think Moscow will definitely reinforce border regions after this action from Zelensky's regime. Let's continue with some other news. Plenty of significant developments, and I will try to go at least through headlines to make this update as informative as possible. So, in Belgorod region, Zelensky's regime did continue to conduct some sabotage operations, this time with the active use of drones. And we have statement from governor of Belgorod region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, who said that during the previous night, Zelensky's regime launched plenty of drones. There is no exact information how many drones he is talking about, but he said massive drone attack did take place. Russian air defense systems managed to shut down majority of Ukrainian drones, but unfortunately some of them did go through air defense systems, and they did drop ammunitions on Belgorod itself. Fortunately, there are no reports about casualties among civilians on the ground, but some buildings were damaged, and some private property, including cars on the streets. Fortunately, there was no casualties among civilians. Let me continue, and this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which is based on statements from Denis Pushilin, active head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, and according to him, Russian side did stabilize situation on the flanks of Artyomovsk, which is Bakhmut, and according to him, risks of any more or less successful counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime in that direction is minimal at this point. Let me show you on the map this area. So this pro-Ukrainian map, of course, will not update this direction of Artyomovsk or Bakhmut for quite a while now, as long as Zelensky's regime will not recognize that Bakhmut is under full Russian control. But anyway, according to Pushilin, flanks of Bakhmut are secure. As I said in my yesterday's update, Russian side did reinforce this direction with reserves, and as I understand, in nearest future, Russian side will begin its offensive operations in direction of Chisov Yar and Konstantinovka, and at the same time, I guess Russian side will become very active in direction of Seversk, which is north of Bakhmut or Artyomovsk, and also I guess Russian side will be very active in direction of Liman and in direction of Kupiansk. This directions has strategic meaning for Russian side, because to conduct offensive operations in direction of Kramatorsk, Slavyansk defense lines, Russian side need to make sure that flanks are secure, and that's why it's very important to establish control over the Chisov Yar, over the Konstantinovka and settlements on the western part of these towns, and also when it comes to northern part, Russian side just need to establish control over the Seversk, Liman direction and Kupiansk. And there is some reports that Russian side is already quite active in these directions, and in coming weeks we will probably see much more activization from Russian armed forces. When it comes to overall situation on the front line, after Bakhmut was fully liberated by Russian forces, it's a kind of quiet situation, if we can use this word, because it's mainly, when it comes to Kherson region, it's artillery duels, same is in Zaporozhye region. Donetsk direction, as always, it's quite active, especially in direction of Marinka and Chisov Yar, and Marinka and Avdeevka. Sorry, and we did have the report that Zelensky's regime is trying to reinforce Ukrainian forces in direction of Marinka and Avdeevka, because I guess they understand that Russian side will try to establish control over these settlements in foreseeable future. When it comes to Avdeevka, as you can see on the map, Avdeevka situation there reminds probably many of your situation that was around Bakhmut or Artyomovsk a few months ago. This town is in operational encirclement, and I guess Moscow, Russian forces may try to use Avdeevka as a trap once again. And if Zelensky's regime did not learn nothing from Battle of Bakhmut, they will probably end up in this trap also. And I have reason to believe in that because of this reports that Kiev is reinforcing garnison in direction of Avdeevka, and there were some reports that Zelensky himself, unconfirmed reports that Zelensky himself was in Avdeevka direction yesterday. Not in Avdeevka itself, but somewhere around. So I guess Avdeevka may become second Bakhmut for Ukrainian armed forces, meat grinder, as many did use this terminology about Bakhmut. And once again, it all depends if Zelensky's regime is able to learn something from experience that they had. Of course, there is nowhere to see so-called or anticipated by many large-scale counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime. And you know my take on it. This announced counteroffensive, large-scale counteroffensive, will never happen. And lately, I'm even doubting that Zelensky's regime will be able to conduct even local-scale offensive operations in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. Main reason that I'm beginning to doubt that they will be able to pull off even local scale offensives in this direction, even though they have quite significant last reserves that they have mobilized in this area, about 78,000 military personnel. And the reason why I'm doubting possibility that they will be able to pull off this kind of operations is that Russian side was very effective in previous few weeks to destroy warehouses, military warehouses of Zelensky's regime, ammunition depots, or fuel depots, and I guess it will take quite a while now for the Zelensky's regime to receive yet another portions of military equipment from the NATO member states and ammunition. And I guess Russian side will probably wait for a week or two, maybe month, and then I guess Russian armed forces will start its offensive operations. Yes, when it comes to direction of Seversk, I just said that I guess in the foreseeable future we will see significant activization of Russian side. Right now it's mainly artillery duels. Same goes for Liman direction and Kupiansk direction. So that's the situation on the front line right now. Of course, Russian side is conducting missile and drone strikes on daily basis nowadays to destroy as many military warehouses of Zelensky's regime as possible, and ammunition depots. And by the way, this is RIA Novosti's report, which is quite interesting and also threatening, maybe threatening at least for people who are in science fiction, because we have reported that Russian side first time use S-350 air defense systems in fully automatic mode. And this system, which is based on S-300 air defense system, but are significantly improved. This system was in fully automatic mode, and in that automatic mode, without intervention of personnel who were there controlling situation, but without direct involvement of military personnel, these air defense systems did find aerial targets of Zelensky's regime, a few planes, track them, and then launch missiles and destroy them. So as I understand it, according to this report, also this is first time when air defense system was used in fully automatic mode. So that's the direction that basically militaries are probably heading, and I guess in foreseeable future we will see more and more military equipment that will be in fully automatic mode, which is at one point, we can say that this is good because lives can be saved, lives of military personnel. But in second hand, you can think, can we trust artificial intelligence enough to let it operate on its own with military, extremely serious military equipment? That's a quite serious topic, and yes, let's see what will happen in the future. But I guess even if we have some doubts about trusting in artificial intelligence, I guess we are heading in that direction when AI will be more and more present in our lives, not just in military terms, but also in civilian terms. And by the way, I did share, when it comes to operation of Bakhmut or Artyomovsk, we had information from Prigozhin, head of PMC Wagner units. I did share this information on my Telegram channel, and Prigozhin did give us additional information about casualties during that battle, and he said that Zelensky's regime lost about 50,000 soldiers, KIA, killed in action during this operation in Bakhmut. Unbelievable number. This is definitely responsibility of Zelensky and his associates, because even Western military experts were saying openly, and there were reports that they were even advising Zelensky's regime to stop fighting for Bakhmut and save lives, because it was obvious for militaries that Zelensky's regime will be unable to hold on to this city. But they were sending more and more reinforcements in the direction of Bakhmut, and now we have information about casualties that Zelensky's regime had in this direction, and 50,000 military personnel killed means about at least twice more was wounded, probably, which is just unbelievable. This is unbelievable tragedy for Ukrainian society, because vast majority, I guess, of this killed and wounded Ukrainian soldiers were forcefully mobilized and sent to this direction. Prigozhin also spoke about casualties among PMC Wagner units, and he said that at peak, when fighting was extremely heavy, they were losing about 20% of manpower in units, which is also a big number, of course. But according to Prigozhin, they lost much less, twice, 3 times less soldiers than Zelensky's regime. And according to Prigozhin, during the peak of the fighting, Zelensky's regime had in Bakhmut and around Bakhmut about 82,000 military personnel. So, as I said, 50,000 according to PMC Wagner and Prigozhin, 50,000 Ukrainian soldiers were killed, and my estimation is that probably at least twice more were wounded during this battle. So let's continue with some additional news. And by the way, let me share with you this information, which is for this moment is unconfirmed on official level, but some Russian language Telegram channels are reporting that this morning, when Russian recognition ship, intelligence ship, Ivan Kursk, left Bosphorus and entered the Black Sea, this ship was attacked by 3 naval drones, and according to information, all drones were destroyed and ship is undamaged. But yet again, I guess if this information will be confirmed on official level, then I guess this is one more reason why grain deals should not be postponed, because Russian Defense Ministry and Foreign Ministry said quite a few times that Ukrainian side, Zelensky's regime, using grain deal and ships that are moving in and out of Ukraine to conduct these marine drone attacks. So let's see what will be response from Moscow. But according to information that we have now, ship was not damaged and all 3 naval drones were destroyed. So let's continue now. This is TASS News Agency's report, which is based on statements of a military expert from LPR, Lugansk People's Republic, Andrei Marochko, and he said that in direction of Kupiansk, Russian intelligence did receive information that in direction of Kupiansk, in one of the points of control, plan and control of Zelensky's regime, some big number of Anglo-speaking military personnel was noticed with heavy security. and according to Morocco, security was provided by SBU, Ukraine's secret service, special forces, and I guess, I just said a few minutes ago that Kupiansk direction will become a hot point in foreseeable future, and I guess NATO did send its instructors, its officers to one of the command and control centers of Zelensky's regime in Kupiansk direction to instruct Ukrainian officers or to teach them how to conduct defensive or offensive operations. Maybe they will be in charge even of this direction, which is quite possible. I guess if Russian side has information that in one of the command and control centers are NATO officers, I guess that center will become, or that group will become under missile attack if they are staying there. But if they already left, then I don't know. Let's see how the situation develop anyway. But this information once again highlights direct involvement of NATO and some NATO member states in this conflict, even if they have a plausible deniability on their hands, because according to Andrei Marochko, this Anglo-speaking military personnel was without any insignia, just in military uniform. So that has been done exactly for plausible deniability. That's how NATO and Western states, leaders of Western states, are operating. Let's continue. This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which Russian side did manage to repeal local-scale counteroffensive operations of Zelensky's regime in direction of Avdeevka, Marinka, and Alexandra Kalinova. As I said just a few minutes ago, Zelensky's regime is trying to reinforce its formations in Donetsk direction, in Marinka and Avdeevka. But I guess it's only a matter of time, and Marinka will become under full Russian control. And when it comes to Avdeevka, I guess Russian side will wait for a little bit. If they will manage to use Avdeevka as yet another trap for Zelensky's regime, then they will use this direction as a trap. But if they see, or if in military planning, Moscow will have some different strategy, then I guess in coming weeks Avdeevka will be fully encircled, and then Russian side will enter city and establish full control over this town. Probably morale in armed forces of Ukraine are so low right now that I don't think many Ukrainian soldiers truly want to stay and fight. So I guess in coming weeks and months we will see mass surrenderings of Ukrainian soldiers, and that will be a right decision on their part because they will save their lives. This is RIA Novosti's report. Also interesting. Let me check how long is this video. 24 minutes. Wow. So this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which yesterday, during the meeting between Putin and the head of Russian Constitutional Court, Valery Zorkin, these two gentlemen discuss some historical moments, and map was presented, historical map on which historical map from 18th century, French map, on which there was no Ukraine mentioned, there was just Poland and then Russia, Moscow Kingdom, and well, I do love history, and I don't really need the explanation from anybody that there was no such a kingdom or state or anything like that under the name of Ukraine. And this word Ukraine and the people under this name, Ukrainians, this was adopted, this articulation was adopted in by Polish elites, and they were calling Ukraine Akraina. Name Ukraine comes from a word Akraina, and Akraina at the suburbs. So if you take a look on the map, many of you may don't knew about it, but at some point Poland, together with Baltic states, they have some commonwealth, and they were controlling quite vast territories, including on in Ukraine, in modern Ukraine. And this area, which is central parts of Ukraine right now, Commonwealth, our Polish elites were calling Akraina because it was suburbs of this empire that Poland and Baltic kingdoms were creating. They were calling this area just suburbs, Akraina, and from word Akraina, which then become which did enter Russian language also, and Russians also did start calling this area Akraina, and from this word Akraina have been created Ukraina word. And people that were living in this area, Cossacks and many other groups, were called eventually Ukrainians, even though ethnically they could be just anyone. They could be descendants of Tatars that were living in Crimea, for example. They could be descendants of even Scandinavian people, because in early years of creation of Kievan Rus, Scandinavians play a huge role, and first kings were Scandinavians, and in Russia they are called Varyag here, and they were just Vikings. Scandinavians that went to west in Europe are called Vikings, and Scandinavians that went to east in modern territory of Russia, they were called Varyags, but they were same Scandinavians, they were all Vikings. And the first kings of Kievan Rus dynasty, they were descendants of Scandinavians. Ruriki. So yes, of course, there was no such a kingdom or state as Ukraine. And as I said, it's only a few centuries that even this word have been used towards any population. Ukraina, it's Akraina, and Akraina, if you translate it in English, it's just suburbs. Suburbs of this Polish and Baltic Commonwealth that was created a few centuries ago, and then it was Russia, rest of the territory. And of course in Crimea there were Tatars, and they are presented now also. And if you go too far in history, far away, then in Crimea, of course, when it comes to first settlers, we can talk about Greeks, we can talk about even German tribes, Goths, for example. Of course, we can talk about Cimmerians and Scytho-Sarmatians, because entire this territory at some point, just entire northern part of Black Sea, Caucasus, northern Caucasus region, and up to Caspian Sea. Entire this area was part of this Scythian and Sarmatian civilization. And they were not Slavic people, they were Iranian speaking, Iran language people, Iranian language. family people. So, and by the way, it's so funny and so sad that some people in Ukraine, they think they are descendants of Scythians and Sarmatians because they had civilization in these areas. When they are so poorly educated, they did not even know that Scythians and Sarmatians were not Slavic people. They were from Middle East, and they were Iranian. Their language was part of Iran language family, and direct descendants of Scythians, Sarmatians, and Alans that were part of this Sarmatian union of tribes. Direct descendants of them you can see now in Northern Caucasus region, in Northern Ossetia, Alania, here. And you can see them also in South Ossetia also. And yes, one day I may do some program about history, because I do love history, but I'm not historian. So if I do anything in these terms, then it will be just for exchange of opinion and without any, I will not pretend that I'm expert in this field. That's what I want to say. So yes, that's when it comes to this little history. I hope I did explain good enough. What I want to say is 31 minutes. Wow. I will go now at least through headlines. And this is TASS. And by the way, when it comes to one more thing, maybe Hungarians are also in our community. I hope so. And they can confirm this information that descendants of Scytho-Sarmatians and Alans are living also in Hungary. They called Asi. They forgot language. They're speaking on Hungarian now, but they have some historical memory that they are descendants of Alans, Scytho-Sarmatian civilization, and time to time some delegations from Hungary are visiting North Ossetia, Alania, to get better to the culture that was uniting all those Iranian-speaking tribes that were united in this Scytho-Sarmatian civilization. And there are many toponyms, not just in Ukraine, for example, but also in Europe and Western Europe, that until nowadays are having names that are associated with the Scytho-Sarmatian civilization. In northern Italy, in France, just everywhere, and even in Ukraine, for example, Dnieper, name of river, or in Russia, for example, Don, name of river, on Dniester, name of river also. And there are many other toponymic names in Europe also, as I said, that are directly connected to Sarmatian, Scytho-Sarmatian language or Ossetian language, Alanian language. And as I said, nowadays it's only Ossetians are speaking this language, and Don means water in Ossetians. So let me continue on that. Sorry for this historical little excursus. As I said, I'm not historian, so I'm not pretending that I know anything better than historians do. So, but all what I say, it's historical facts. It's and you can check it on YouTube if you want to, or on Google. Let me continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report. That was based on statements from head of Russian Foreign Intelligence Sergei Narishkin, according to which United Kingdom leadership of United Kingdom are pressing EU leaders to distance themselves from any peace talks, basically. To distance themselves from any idea which will bring peace talks, bring closer Ukrainian and Russian side to conduct peace talks. Well, as I said many times before, as long as Washington and London are not willing to talk about peace, there will be no peace, unfortunately. And this information from Russian foreign intelligence, not surprising me, not for a second. It was, expectable that London and Washington will press European leadership to stay in line, and don't even say a word about peace negotiations. And at least for now, it's only Hungary and maybe Serbia that we can say that are openly against this conflict. And they are constantly talking about peace and necessity to conduct peace talks. Rest of the European states, they are still actively participating basically in this conflict against Russia. Let me continue. This is TASS News Agency's report also about statements that Lavrov made on today's conference of international conference of high-ranking representatives of security services. And Lavrov said that more and more weapons that have been delivered to Ukraine by Western states are re-exported from Ukraine all around the world. I guess Lavrov do have reasons and factual information to say such to make such a statement, and he is not the first. He is not the first. There are so much information in internet that on the black market you can buy almost anything now that was delivered to Ukraine by West. It's all about money, If you have money, you can buy even anti-tank missiles, air manpads, and just anything, which is truly unfortunate because, as I said many times before, these weapons eventually will end up in Europe also, in Western states also, in hands of terrorists, criminals, and Let me continue. This is TASS News Agency's report about statements that Peskov made about conflict in Ukraine, and he said that unfortunately on the ground there is no significant factual evidence which will say that conflict in Ukraine is nearing its end or peaceful negotiations are on the horizon. No, there is no such evidence that in foreseeable future there will be peace in Ukraine. And yes, probably we'll all can agree on this, that for now, despite attempts of many countries all around the world to somehow end this conflict, it seems like peace not even in sights yet. And as long as Washington and London will not talk peace, there will be no peace. And this is RIA Novosti's report, basically continuation of previous topic when Orban, which is about statements from Orban and Prime Minister of Hungary, and Viktor Orban basically called European leadership to achieve agreement with Russia about mutual security, mutual guarantees of security, and end this conflict in Ukraine. And he also said that there is no way Ukraine gonna win this conflict. Some members of, or maybe majority of members of the so-called European or Western elites may be thinking that they can defeat Russia by sacrificing Ukraine, but they cannot. And Orban is openly saying this. As I said, Hungary and Serbia, these two countries at least for this moment, that are open-minded, definitely, and are pushing for peace and saying true. That's it. I mean, they are just saying true how it really is. But I guess Western elites will start hating Orban and his government even more for his principled stance. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which Moscow hopes that agreement with Iran, agreement between Eurasian Economical Union and Iran about free trade will be reached before end of this year, and this will be, of course, huge deal. This will be a huge deal for Iran, for members of Eurasian Union, which is created by few former Soviet republics. I give you exact states. It's Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia. Moldova, Uzbekistan, and Cuba are associate members. They are not members, they are наблюдатели. And now Iran becoming close to this organization, which is absolutely great. It will be beneficial, absolutely beneficial for all sides, for Iran and for members of Eurasian Union. And as it was stated by Moscow quite a few times now, this trade route northeast, which will go from Russia to Iran, is already working, and with this kind of steps forward, free trade agreements and all that comes to with it, of course, make this trade route even more significant. So, as I said, despite attempts of Western elites to somehow isolate Russia and destroy Russian economy and all of it, they're not really achieving much, at least for now, isn't it? And we have statement from Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, who said that, and this information based on Reuters report, and Prime Minister of Japan said that no way Japan will become a NATO member. There is no such plans in Tokyo, but once again, who cares if Japan will become officially a member of NATO? We all know that Japan will do whatever they are told to do. Elites of Japan, isn't it? That's same case as it was with Finland and Sweden. That's why Moscow's reaction was not that harsh when Finland became member of NATO, or when Finland and Sweden declared that they will join NATO, because they are already part of this anti-Russian coalition like Japan is. And officially they may not be member of NATO, but we all know they will do, leadership of those countries will do whatever they are told to do. Finland is already a member of NATO. Sweden will become member of NATO, no doubt about it, I guess. And when it comes to Japan, yes, they can say whatever they want, but we all know they will act according to orders from Washington. Isn't it? That's quite unfortunate, really, because Japan and Russia could have great relationships and should have great relationships. Same goes for Russian and Germany's relationships, or Russian and France relationships, or Italy, or just any other country. But unfortunately, elites of those countries are under control of Washington and London, and they are acting not by interests of their own people and countries, but they are acting according to interests of Washington and London, which is truly unfortunate. Let me continue. This is TASS News Agency's report. As you know, Mikhail Mishustin, Prime Minister of Russian Federation, is in China for the last 2 days, and he did participate in business forum Russia-China, and then in Shanghai, and then he went to Beijing. He had meeting with the leadership of China, Xi Jinping, and Prime Minister of China. And during his statements, he did said that this year will be record-breaking year when it comes to trade between the countries, and Mishustin thinks that trade will be more than $200 billion. Trade will oversee $200 billion between the sides, which is great, really, which is great. Russia becoming more active on in Southeast Asia, India Pacific region, in Africa, in Latin America, which is truly great. Truly great. So in some sense, Western elites did help Russia to diversify its economy and to establish even greater relationships with the rest of the world. And during the visit of Russian Prime Minister in China, there were 5 significant agreements were reached between the sides, and well, it's all good, I guess. Relationships between the sides will develop in a rapid pace, but not just between Russia and China, but between Russia and India, which is a very important partner for Russian Federation. We should never forget that India is extremely important for Russia, and I guess Russia is also extremely important for India. And same goes for just rest of the world. It's just Western elites that are trying to destroy Russia and do some damage to us. But rest of the world, we have great relationships, really, or good relationships at least. And this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which there were some annual meeting in Geneva of World Health Organization, and head of this organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, warned that countries all around the world should prepare for yet another pandemic, which may be more deadly than previous pandemic. And basically, I know this topic is, I should be careful in my comments about this topic also, on especially on YouTube. But I mean, let's be honest, man. They did a full majority of world, isn't it? With the previous story of this pandemia, and they were almost on a weekly basis changing their minds, and on monthly basis, and so many people were harassed for saying true. So it was just shocking, man, what we see from so-called elites almost everywhere. And when it comes to trust, I mean, I did take these words seriously, because they are preparing some other crisis. Who knows, man? Because during the previous this pandemia, as you know, I mean, rich people get not just richer, but I mean significantly richer. And if anyone lose, it was just ordinary people like us. And there are so many questions about all that story that, but yet again, I mean, they are warning us that we all should be prepared for yet another story. It's unbelievable, man. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which UN is trying to help Russia with the Russian bank with the SWIFT bypass. We are talking about Rossельхоз Bank, which is part of this grain deal Rossellhouse Bank should be reconnected to SWIFT according to agreements, as I understand. But Western elites are not allowing this to happen, and they will not allow Russian interests to be fulfilled in this grain deal. And that's why many people in Russia, and I guess all around the world, don't really understand why Russia is prolonging this deal. But yeah, it is what it is. Last time, at least a few days ago, as you know, grain deal was prolonged once again by Moscow. Did agree to prolong this deal, and I guess this time main reason was political reason. Moscow just tried to at least indirectly help current leadership of Turkey, because for them this grain deal, and for Turkey it's extremely important. Let me continue. And by the way, when it comes to Turkey, it's 4 days before second tour of presidential election, and let's see what will happen. Let's hope situation will remain stable in Turkey, and even though sides are on different ideological ground, let's hope everything will go down peacefully, no matter which side will emerge victorious during that elections. And this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which I did spoke about this. And this is gonna be last news for today, according to which tomorrow or today, I guess, Governor of Florida, DeSantis, will make a statement that he is running for U.S. presidency. He will have some meeting in which head of Twitter, SpaceX, Tesla, and you name it, Elon Musk will be represented. And during this meeting, he will announce that he is running for presidency. Well, lately, DeSantis was disappointing, of course, especially when it comes to foreign. He stands on foreign policy. He did make quite strange statements, but maybe that's because he is not in foreign policy yet. I don't know. But anyway, anybody will be better than neoliberals, and that's for sure, isn't it? DeSantis, Trump, whoever, anybody will be better than neoliberals, man. And after all, it's up to US citizens for who to vote and who to support, even if we all know perfectly well that it's a deep state that runs this show, and no matter for who you will vote and who will be in White House, real decision makers will stay in a very different place, and real decision, we may don't even know and never knew names of real decision makers in deep state or in Western elites in general, because majority of people that we see on pages of media or from the screen, majority of them are just puppets of real deal makers, isn't it? So this is it for now. It's 53 minutes. No matter how hard I try to make this video short, it's anyway too long. But yes, this is it for now. I hope you will find this update informative and interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And please, if you can, subscribe to my Telegram or my channel on Rumble. You will see links under this video in description box. And yes, if you think this channel is interesting, deserves to exist, and has some potential, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links also under this video in the description box. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care. See you soon.